Welcome everybody. It's Rev. We are doing a tournament report for Saturday's uh, GOAT format local tournament that I attended. I won this one again. I have won basically all of them for the last, I don't know, half a year. Um, we only play them once every 2 months, so I've probably won like 4 in a row or 8 months in a row. So it's not that impressive. It's not like we're playing every week, but I just wanted to share a few thoughts on the list. Um, the matchups and I think maybe like a few like gaming related things as it relates to like in real life versus online uh, type stuff with the format. But it's going to be a pretty quick thing. I don't think there's really that much to talk about. So this is the list. I like this 40. I think it's really good. It feels amazing. It draws well. I don't really brick. I like keeping the MST in the main at this point just to have an answer to snatch and like versus warriors being able to pop stuff like premature and call. Um, one jar feels good just because, you know, jar into jar really doesn't feel all that good, and you actually need your cards to do something, so you don't really want to run too many of these. Like two dust shoots feels like I open it enough paired with a card destruction so that it's good. If the side looks weird, it is. Last time we did 2 months ago the goat format tournament, a bunch of people brought like really random OTK decks like Stein. There's a Reasoning Gate player. Um, Someone was on cat. I was on cat actually, so I brought in two roars. I wanted these to be hollowed life barriers. I just don't have those. I'll probably just buy some commons off TCG player, and get them in for the next tournament. Um, because surprisingly enough, we're actually getting a few players like attending these GOAT format tournaments that are new and like kind of getting into the format a little bit, which is great. But they're kind of running like some odd stuff like Lockdown Burn, like Pac-Man. I saw some like wave motion cannons just because a lot of that stuff is in our like common box at the locals. So um, that paired with a bunch of OTK decks, I really need, and a cat deck. Like I think I really need Hollowed Life Barriers in here, and probably another walk just because they are timed events. Um, Everything else I think is pretty standard, but these were necessary, and I just wish they were Hollowed Life Barriers. So um, round one, I played against the cat player I played round one in our last tournament, and I had good cards, but I think I flubbed the game a little bit. I would say I played like lights out last night, except round one, game one, which I lost game one. So he was on cat, and I played him last GOAT format tournament, and I was on cat burn, and as far as I could see, he was just on cat like Earth aggro or something, because I saw like Gigantes, and I didn't see any burn cards or Ojama trios. So turn one or turn two, like early on, I attacked into a panda, and he goes battle step Ojama trio and does a bunch of damage that way. Which I guess the thing is like with rescue cat decks, they usually at least have one panda in there to punish stuff like scapegoats or just like punish wide boards, or just pierce over like a faith or a serpent or something. So maybe I should have seen that coming, but um, I got hit with that, and then I basically got my board Ojama locked with a Sangan and a Magician of Faith, and I can't remember exactly if I had already pitched my Thunder Dragons, pardon me, or I pitched them afterwards, but a series of kind of bad plays and like letting myself get into a position where I got locked and couldn't build a big enough of a board to out the Ojama tokens. And like I had a Regeki break at some point, and maybe should have just Regeki breaked a token to try to get something else on board to start swinging because the 1300 damage from Faith and Sangan wasn't enough. And basically what he did was, the standard game plan of just like build a big enough pile of burn cards and just burn me down. So that's what transpired. Um, Game two, I sided in some of the burn hate cards like Roar and a Walk, and I believe a swords as well. And more or less, he kind of opened pretty decent. Like he was able to get rid of Aurora very early, just like with a lucky snipe. And then um, this is kind of going into one of the topics that I wanted to go into this tournament, which was like how winning in real life is a little bit different. So he made a misplay, like he just misordered his cards. When he activated last duel, he activated it after he tributed, and I told him like, hey, you have to activate that before, and like he kind of just like threw the game on accident there. And having played all 3 rounds, something I noticed was that the person that won, which in this case was me, I won all 3 rounds, was the player that made the fewest mistakes. I didn't really make any mistakes at all, to my mind, or any at least big ones, outside of just game one, round one. And as we'll see, like this was a pretty sloppy tournament. Like my opponents made some like very, very bad mistakes, just because most people don't play Goat as like their main format. So he messed up a cat will thing, and I think like he showed me after the game too that like I would have been dead if he had done it properly because he had another will, and then would have gotten over my board, and I just happened to draw like very little disruption, and the roar was just gone turn one because it got sniped. So uh, that's how that game went down. And then round one, game three, I drew pretty well. I was able to early dust shoot him, and then I think I like had a Trinity piece and was in a pretty commanding position, and was going to win the game anyway. But like Catburn's not really a deck you can just like kind of pick up. It's a very hard deck, and like you need to know it. And he like makes a big board and tries to swing over one of my BLSs with a panda that was at 28 because he had some Miluses, and he was like attacking. I was like, okay, and I was like, you take two, and he was like, oh no, this is at 38, and I was like, it's actually at 28, and he was like, what? And like I ran through the math of like Milus and stuff, and he was like, oh shit. Um, so kind of a huge misplay there too, and then he just scooped it up. He was like, man, I'm messing this up, and like he just made like two very grave errors that cost him the game. I think I would have won game three anyway, but it just so happened that game two he accidentally threw, um, and it allowed me to take the match. So um, again, kind of goes to show like I don't know how much to blame myself for game one. I think I drew like really good cards. Like I had a lot of Trinity. I think I saw a Heavy Storm, but I probably should have seen around the corner to play around an Ojama Trio, just because it looks like he either switched his build up or I just didn't see Ojama Trios in past the past tournament. Um, and then like game two and three, he just made like some very big errors, which cost him the games. So next is round two. So this was against Lockdown Burn. And he opens with like 3 back row and a set, and I open with Heavy Storm Nobleman and just activate Heavy Storm and blow up everything. And again, just like a really, really big misplay, because he wasn't running Solemns. He had like Magic Jammers or something. And like the stuff I blew up was like really duplicative. Like he had a floodgate, or he had multiple floodgates and like a cylinder. It's like there's just no reason to set all of that. And then especially all of it together. Like if you want to commit 2 back row, like those 2 back row should like do 2 different things. Like one of them should be like a burn card, and like one of them should be a floodgate maybe. Um, so that happened, and then I like looped Faith and just kept on noblemening him, and like had spell and trap removal, since I had Sook Faith and could get back heavy whenever I wanted, and then just like very easily took that game. And then game two, um, I opened Heavy Storm and Nobleman again, and he makes the same mistake of setting a bunch of stuff without a negate, and I just kind of blew him out, and that's really just how that went. It was like just very easy, like bread and butter. I'm gonna get aggressive, and he was super down on cards, so there really wasn't much to say about that. But like I talked about his deck a little bit. I was like, "Are you running, Solomon there?" And I don't think he was, and maybe he'll change that in future weeks because if you're running a lockdown strategy, like Solomon's probably your best card. So um, again, like in that game, it was whoever made the least mistakes won. So that was me. And kind of the point I'm trying to make here is like online, like when we play, because I know anyone watching this video is mostly an online player, like the level of competition is so high that the the outcome of most games is very dependent on luck, because online players are going to have very refined lists for the most part, and online players are going to play generally pretty well and not make as many huge blunders. Um, so like when the level of competition is so high, the amount of wins that just really do come down to variance is very high. Whereas like in real life, there are so many deck building errors, like siding errors and play errors that it really comes down to who makes the fewest mistakes. Um, and there's stuff written about this, like uh, there's a book called Winning the Loser's Game, which they have an example that like goes into amateur tennis. And at those levels of tennis, it's not necessarily about who like has all the best hits or like makes a really good save or just like has an amazing serve, but like after studying like thousands of games, it's whoever faults the least and whoever makes like the least amount of errors and stuff like that, um, wins like the vast majority of tennis games. So it's not even like about being like a five-head genius. It's just about like not doing stupid things. So I think there's a lesson in there somewhere, and it kind of comes into uh, round three. So I'm up against Warrior, and game one, I just get like basically Warrior stratted. I opened like basically all discard stuff like Thunder Dragons and Flips. I had a Nobleman at some point. I might have even had a shoot, and he had just like Blade Knight back row, and I literally couldn't do anything, so I just got completely blown out very quickly. Post side, game two, I opened like shit again. Um, I opened two Thunder Dragons. Um, I think he opened like a Trinity piece, and I like almost was certain I was going to lose the game, but what I was able to do was stick a spy. Um, and I think he was even like ahead on cards or something, just because I wasn't able to convert any of the Thunder Dragons into anything meaningful, um, and really was just using them for like Regeki Breakfighter to remove stuff. I think he even had a Sasuke that he tried to stick at one point, and that was going to clear my spies, and it was just like a very downhill game. And I was able to set up Light and Dark and Grave, and had BLS in hand, and um, I can't remember exactly how it went down, but he, I attacked with something, and or what was it? No, he attacked with something. That's what it was. So he attacked with something, and I attempted to Saku it, and he solemned that, and it put him at 3,700, I believe. And then I had a Mystical Space Typhoon set and a Solemn set, and he had two remaining back row in the end phase, so I spaced one, and then summoned BLS, swung over his stuff, and I had something else on board as well, and just solemned his Saku. Because I end phase spaced and hit a Widespread Ruin, and then I summoned BLS and swung in for the OTK, and he flipped Saku, and I just solemned that. So, um, I mean, I don't know exactly what his hand was, but I don't know if he needed to use his negate in that spot, so that might have been like another big mistake that cost him the game. Because I mean, even if I had like a Sork or something, like it does allow me to just clear his board, and I can sit behind a negate without attacking, since he just had two battle traps set. So again, like I think the player that made the least mistakes did win that, despite opening pretty poorly. So um, round three, game three. So he opens duo for the second time plus graceful, and I'm at three cards on turn one because he opens dust shoot as well. So I was like, okay, I'm going to lose this. Um, but my three cards were duo, snatch, and swords of revealing light. So I activate duo and hit his heavy storm, which was very lucky. But I guess I kind of deserved it because he opened way more broken than me. And snatched his kaiku, started poking, and set up a swords. And that allowed me to basically kind of rebuild my hand and some back row, and I eventually drew into his Umbire of the Dark. He removes the Snatch Steal at some point, so his Kaiku goes back to him, and I stick a Zumbira of the Dark, and it sticks for a turn or two. I eventually draw a Spy, and he snatches my Zumbira, and then attacks into my set, which is a Spy. I pull out the other Spy, and um, then basically next turn he attacks with Zumbira into the Spy. I'm like, okay, you take 100. And he was like, he I guess forgot how Zumbira worked. He was like, no, it's only for direct attacks. I was like, Zumbira can't attack directly. It's whenever it destroys a monster. He was like, oh shit. So basically, what happened at that point is I stuck a Spy, and he had a Snatch Stealed Zumbira on the field for like 8 turns, and I got up to 10,700 or something big. Um, and I cleared board at some point because I had a Serpent, which I used with Torrential. Um, and then I was able to summon a Sork in time, and I was just so far ahead on life points, I won that way. So, again, kind of a flub like that led to the game loss. So, just thought it was very interesting, and I was just surprised at like how many misplays there were at this tournament. But that's really all I wanted to talk about. I mean, I think the list performed pretty darn well. Um, I think outside of maybe game one, round one, I think I played very well. Um, and next tournament, I'll probably have to reconsider what my side looks like just because there's so much weird shit at this tournament um, that I don't think I can like metagame this hard with like two mind cons. Like I'll probably need to like get these into hollow life barriers and like another walk for time issues or just burn and see what happens. But that's the tournament report. Let me know what you guys think about kind of the discussion on online versus in real life, and either making good plays or just not making bad plays, and what you think is more important. See you later.